fired. He's describing the plan, and the plan he describes, and if you didn't hear it, was to transport people from one state into another state to vote illegally using personal vehicles instead of buses to make the fraud more difficult to pinpoint and expose. Scott even says to us the WikiLeaks emails are difficult for them because they have to be careful about putting the stuff in writing. So they moved it, Sean, into encrypted messaging. They said we can only do this stuff on encrypted black box communications. He also explains the use of shell companies to disguise the fraud. And he says you got to start a shell company and move the cars over state lines. And then he says, listen, we got to be real careful of anyone finding out about this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in touch with someone who can hook you up. That man's name was Cesar Vargas, and that's the illegal alien who runs the Voces de la Frontera group. You can see that in the video. He says, let's do this. He describes how to do it, and he says, not only do we need to do it here, we need to do it in the 2018 election.
Explain the beginning when Fovel says you could blank your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail, because he was basically saying we can get away with all of this and we're not going to get caught. I'll play it for our audience.
You could your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail. If you had enough money.
Explain the context of that.
He's talking about, he's describing which states to do it in. He says it's really good to do this in Wisconsin, and it's really good to do it in Indiana and Michigan. And the reason why he brings up Michigan, Sean, is because the governor of Michigan is a Republican, but Scott Fovel thinks that some of these Republicans are sort of rhino Republicans. They're unwilling to stand up to the fraud, specifically in Michigan because there was the Flint crisis and the Flint water crisis, and the Republican governor is spineless, afraid, because he's being inundated with attacks from the opposition. So he says, do it in Michigan, because the governor you could blank your mother in front of the governor, and they won't prosecute you. So Fogle is describing